Welcome to today's conversation, Paycheck Protection Program, or PPP Loan Forgiveness. You'll learn more about this program and how the loans are forgiven. The information contained here has been prepared by Civitas Strategies Early Start and is not intended to constitute legal, tax, or financial advice. The Civitas Strategies Early Start team has used reasonable efforts in collecting, preparing, and providing this information, but does not guarantee its accuracy, completeness, adequacy, or currency. The publication and distribution of this information is not intended to create, and receipt does not constitute an attorney-client or any other advisory relationship. Reproduction of this information is expressly prohibited. In today's session, we'll go over what is the forgiveness process, which form you should use, how you'll fill it out, and how you can get help. The forgiveness process is important to providers because this converts the loan to a grant. Forgiveness removes the debt, so you keep the funds. If your forgiveness is only for a percentage of your loan amount, then whatever remains will be debt that you owe. Newer rule changes make it easier to get 100% forgiveness. There are only specific expenses allowed under this. Payroll. And if you normally deduct them, rent, utilities, mortgage interest, operations costs, property damage, supplier costs, or worker protection. At least 60% of the forgiveness amount needs to be on payroll. W-2 employee rehiring is important. You'll need to have records to show these expenses. Here are a few key points about PPP forgiveness. If at all possible, use all payroll. Almost everyone can use the 3508S or EZ form. The owner or operator pay is from your 2019-2020 taxes, the same information from your application. Check your paperwork to ensure that your loan is indeed a PPP and not an EIDL loan. You apply through the bank that issued your loan. Forgiveness is never larger than the loan. The process begins for forgiveness when you receive the money in your account or the following pay period starts. The forgiveness application can be done through your bank 8 to 24 weeks after the time period ends. Forgiveness ends, the balance is a loan at 1% interest. Applying for the forgiveness process is simple. You'll gather your records, select the correct form to use, whether 3508S, 3508EZ, or 3508. Fill out the forms. The bank and then SBA will review and make a determination based on the documentation you've turned in. Before filling out the SBA form, per this guidance, you should gather key information about your PPP loan and spending during the forgiveness period. This starts with gathering your records. If you are an owner or self-employed, records that you can use to support your PPP loan forgiveness include bank statements and canceled checks. W-2 employees, bank statements, third-party payroll reports, payroll tax filings, or the IRS Form 941 and state forms. Benefits could include payment receipts, canceled checks, and account statements. Other records that can be used for documentation include rent or lease, a copy of your lease, or receipts or canceled checks. Mortgage interest, your lender amortization schedule, receipts or canceled checks. Utility payments, including invoices for payment and receipts or canceled checks. Operations costs, property damage, supplier costs, and worker protection. Documentation can include receipts and invoices for payment. For records that you'll need to keep internally and not for your application, this documentation includes certifications that salaries were not reduced by more than 25%, showing previous and current pay. Employee job offers and refusals or resignations in writing. Records of employee levels and hours through the period. All PPP application documents, including your 2019 and 2020 tax returns. Here's a side note. Providers will need to ensure that they actually apply for PPP and not the Economic Injury Disaster Loan. EIDLs are disaster loans to help businesses get back on their feet. They provide supplemental and advance payment providers near-term cash and do not need to be repaid. Loans provide long-term debt. For questions in regards to this, go straight to the SBA for questions about your EIDL. Allowable expenses that could be included in PPP forgiveness are payroll and benefits, including wages and salary for you or W-2 employees, state payroll taxes, paid time off, health care, and retirement. Non-payroll, if you are already deducted, can include rent, utilities, mortgage interest, operations costs, property damage, supplier costs, worker protection, and have a maximum total of 40%. This should be similar to the same time period in 2019. Businesses that were not allowed through PPP loans include 1099 contractors or cash-only employees, mortgage principal, credit card debt, rent, utilities, and mortgage if you don't normally deduct it. In step 2, you'll decide which form that you'll use. In this presentation, we'll discuss Form 3508S. Some providers are also eligible to use Form 3508EZ or 3508. How do I know which form I use? Form 3508S will be used if you have a loan less than $150,000. Form 3508EZ is for almost everyone over $150,000 impacted by the government order, not covered in our session. Form 3508 is only if you reduced your pay rate by more than 25% and not impacted by a government order. This was not covered in our session either. We'll go over what Form 3508S is and who is eligible to use this form. Form 3508S provides an even simpler process for PPP loan forgiveness. There are no calculations and greatly reduced paperwork. It's available from the bank that issued your loan. You'll need your general information about your business and your loan number to go along with this form. You can use Form 3508S if your PPP loan is less than $150,000. It does not matter if you are a contractor, sole proprietor, nonprofit, or for-profit corporation. You can use this form if you have employees or if it's just yourself. If your PPP loan is more than $150,000, you can likely still use the 3508EZ. Filling out Form 3508S is simple. You'll need your basic information on you and your PPP loan, the representations and certifications that the money was used in accordance with the program, and remember, forgiveness is never more than your loan amount. Now let's take a look at an example. Jane Smith is a family child care provider in New Jersey. On her 2019 Schedule C, line 31 on her taxes, she made $36,400. Her PPP loan was for 10 weeks of that pay, $7,000. She is a sole proprietor. She is the only employee. Her PPP loan landed in her bank account on May 15, 2020. Jane put the amount of the loan, $7,000, and matched that number for the forgiveness amount. She initialed the representations and certifications and is ready to go to her bank's online site to submit her information. Using the example we just discussed about provider Jane Smith, here's a sample of the PPP loan forgiveness application using Form 3508S. You'll be asked general information about the business's legal name or the borrower, whether this was the first draw or second draw of PPP loans, the SBA PPP loan number, the lender PPP loan number, the loan amount, the loan disbursement date, the number of employees at the time of the application, and the number of employees at the time of forgiveness, the period it covers, as well as the amount of the loan that was spent on payroll and the requested loan forgiveness amount. Once you've entered all the required information for the application, you will sign the application and submit. All employment documentation must be kept for 4 years. All other documentation, 3 years. The bank has up to 60 days to process your application. PPP loans are forgivable, and we hope that we have provided you with information that will help you through the process of loan forgiveness. Providers should know you can get through the process and help is available to you. Additional resources for early care and education can be found at the Wisconsin Early Childhood Association or WECA website. If you are not a member of the Wisconsin Early Education Shared Services Network, you can click here to learn about business training and support it offers. If you are ready to join the Wisconsin Early Education Shared Services Network, you can also click here to join